with the different trauma and that kind of stuff that happens, I know with out in the East Coast there, Doug, you have the Atlantic Group Trauma and Training Center,
Yeah,
and
the Atlantic Group and Trauma Training Center. Yes.
right, and I know when you end up coming in the military, it's all about proving yourself, capable. I'm a good shot. I'm physically fit. I'm capable of doing all this sort of stuff. But then as soon as you end up releasing and medically releasing, it's all about proving how disabled you are, and that, in order to be able to get the support that you need, and that's hard for a lot of soldiers to do, because, like I said, with canine, you can. I'm very good at not showing any kind of problems, but the dog can see it for sure. And then when you're talking to your case manager, oh, I'm good. And a lot of guys fall into that problem of, oh, I'm fine, even though they're not. So how does the Atlantic Group sort that out?
Well, how we sort it out is we really focus on the ability to reclaim ability. Uh, so that's one of the things that we've talked about before. If you're a veteran, if you've been in service, there's something that's actually driven you towards service. So there's a difference between somebody who's running towards the fire and somebody who's running away from it. And the people that go into service have the ability to run towards the fire. Suddenly they become injured due to their service, and as you said, they suddenly have to shift their entire understanding of themselves and how they project themselves to prove how disabled they are, how injured they are in order to get the services that they require. That has a tremendous impact on their psychology, on their identity, and everything. And the fact is that there are still those people, they're just injured. And so being able to
Right.
to meet them where they're at and acknowledge that they're quite capable people and treating them like capable people uh, allows them to reclaim that ability that they do have. And so the Atlanta Group of Trauma Training Center focuses on doing it that way. So we have a small clinic where we actually see individuals currently serving and veterans of the military and first responders we predominantly focus on. And we meet them where they're at with a culturally competent lens. So we understand the culture. I myself like to call myself a piglet. I'm a policeman's son, grew up around Cornwallis. I'm immersed in the military culture, and I served as well. So I'm quite um, well versed in the culture.
Right.
All the clinicians that I have that work with me are well versed within the culture as well through either family or direct service. And then I have what I call paraprofessionals, peers that are actually from the service that come and want to give back, and they serve in a paraprofessional role. So working with the clinicians to be able to support members who are suffering and want to get some support. So
And
that's what we do.
that's important because, as a service member, talking to, like, and I know with myself going through different programs, you have grandma civilian who's a counselor who's never served in the military, has never talked to a military member, and now wants to talk about my childhood trauma and not my time in Iraq. And it's hard to relate to someone. So having someone on your staff that was, in the service and around the service really ends up opening them up a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like when you work with canines, they can tell. There's something they can
Yeah.
tell. And so the work that we do here is actually a little bit different as well. We don't sort of fall under the sort of the Walmart version, the canned version of sort of CBT style. This is what has to happen. CBT is very important, and everybody kind of now knows what CBT is. But if you're working in trauma and you're working in attachment, which, let's face it, if you're an operator and you're injured, you probably are working with trauma and attachment. You need to be able to resolve what trauma is first, and it's biophysiological. And so if you go in to try to tell somebody just to think differently, It's just like me telling you, hey, just relax, just trust me. As soon as I say relax and trust me to somebody who's suffering from trauma, they immediately say, oh, I'm not going to relax and I do not trust you. So
Right.
being able to work somatically, which is what I specialize in, I work with the body, and because that's where the trauma is stored. Trauma is about trying to keep yourself safe, and there's no sense trying to process anything until you're able to achieve that. So we really work with that, just like the dogs can sniff it, even if you tell me you're okay. So there are ways of doing this, and so I'm trained in that way to do that, and I also support my clinicians that work with me to do that. And actually, the AGTTC actually got started by having other therapists bring their clients to me and say, "Hey, Doug, can you regulate my client so that I can then do the work I'm supposed to do with them?" And so then I would see their clients and I would actually work with their nervous system so that they were able to then function in session with their practitioner. And some of them would stay with me and some of them would go back to their practitioner. But then I thought, well, this is silly. I'm having conversations with clinicians. I'm talking about how the biophysiology of trauma works so that we can support them working with their clients. And then so I said, well, instead of doing that, why don't I actually run trainings for clinicians on how to work in trauma? So I started to do that, to teach them that, and that evolved into teaching them how to work in cultural competence. We've heard cultural competence before from many other areas, like working with Indigenous or working with the LGBTQ, but actually working culturally competently in first responder and veteran populations is just as important. And it doesn't mean you have to know what type of vehicle is what. It actually you have to understand sort of the makeup, the composition of what makes an operator an operator. So I do trainings for that as well, so that the clinicians that actually want to go out there and work with this population will have that skill set to be able to do it and actually engage with them, so they don't feel like, as you said, the grandma with the degree on the wall,
Yeah.
who sort of feels lost. And I have all the skill sets in the world, and they do.
Yep.
I have all the skill sets in the world to be able to help you. I just don't have that piece to connect with you.